Hey friends, tonight we begin with something colder than most can imagine. No central heating, no hot water, no electric lights to chase away the shadows. Just the slow drip of melting frost on stone walls, the crack of frozen straw underfoot, and breath hanging like mist in the air, even indoors. This is winter in medieval Europe. Forget the fairy tale castles and gallant knights. This story isn't about them. It's about the poor, the forgotten, the people whose names were never written down, but who endured. Because in the depths of a medieval winter, survival wasn't heroic. It was quiet. It was lighting a candle and wrapping yourself in a damp wool blanket. It was falling asleep beside a pig for warmth. It was watching the fire burn down and knowing you couldn't afford more wood. In this episode, you'll feel the frost creeping into the bones of the 14th century peasant, hear the muffled silence of snow-covered fields, and witness the small, defiant acts that made each freezing night possible. So, lie back, breathe in, and let's walk slowly into the dark, cold quiet of the medieval world, where even the smallest flame meant everything.
Frost on the straw bed. The world outside has vanished, swallowed by a darkness that began in the middle of the afternoon. Here, inside the single room you call home, the darkness is different. It is a living thing, thick with the smell of wood smoke, damp earth, and the faint, sour scent of unwashed bodies. You are not asleep. Sleep is a luxury the deep winter rarely affords. Instead, you lie still, listening. The wind, a distant beast, moans as it scrapes across the frozen thatch of the roof. Closer, you hear the shallow, rhythmic breathing of your family, packed together on the low sleeping platform. Your wife, your son, your daughter. Each breath a small puff of white mist in the frigid air, a tiny ghost of life against the oppressive cold. Your bed is a mattress of straw laid over rough-hewn planks. It rustles with every slight movement, a dry whispering sound that seems loud in the profound silence. The straw holds the memory of the summer sun, but it offers little real comfort now. It is damp, infused with the chill that seeps up from the frozen ground beneath the floor. You have pulled the one woolen blanket up to your chin, its texture coarse and stiff against your skin. It is a patchwork of mended tears and worn thin sections, a testament to generations of shivering bodies. It does not make you warm. It only lessens the bite of the cold, creating a small pocket of air that your own body must struggle to heat. You curl your body inward, tucking your hands between your knees, trying to preserve every flicker of internal warmth. Your toes are numb, lost somewhere in the depths of the straw. You wiggle them, not out of comfort, but out of a primal fear of the frost. You have seen what the deep cold can do to a man's feet, the blackening of the flesh, the slow, creeping death of the limb. So you move them, a small, desperate act of defiance. The most important sound in the room is the one you are always listening for, the gentle hiss and pop of the fire. The hearth is the heart of your world, a shallow pit in the center of the room lined with stones. It is a greedy god that demands constant feeding. All day you have tended it, feeding it precious twigs and dried dung. Now you have banked the embers, covering them with a layer of ash in the hope they will survive until morning. If the fire dies, the cold will not just be uncomfortable, it will become a predator. Waking to a dead hearth is one of the great terrors of winter. It means sacrificing precious kindling to coax it back to life, and kindling is a currency more valuable than silver. You can see the faint, pulsating red glow of the embers through the ash. It is the only light in the room, a weak and defiant pulse against the absolute blackness. It does not illuminate so much as suggest the shapes around you, the silhouette of the loom against the wall, the dark lump of the water barrel, the sleeping forms of your family. The smoke from the hearth does not have a proper chimney to guide it. It drifts upward, staining the rafters a deep, greasy black, searching for the smoke hole in the roof. The air is thick with it. It stings your eyes even when they are closed. You have breathed this air your entire life. It is the price of warmth.
You shift slightly, and a draft of icy air snakes its way through a crack in the wattle and daub wall, slicing through your blanket. You shiver, a deep, convulsive shudder that rattles your bones. It is a reminder that the walls of your home are little more than woven branches and mud, a fragile shield against the immense, indifferent power of the winter night. You are not safe here, not truly. You are merely sheltered. You think of the Lord in his stone castle, sleeping in a curtained bed, a great fire roaring in a cavernous fireplace. You do not feel envy, for that life is as distant and unreal as the stories of saints and dragons the priest sometimes tells. Your world is this room, this straw, this cold. Your reality is the simple, binary struggle of the night, fire against frost, breath against silence. You close your eyes again, not to sleep, but to wait. You wait for the first hint of gray light that will signal the end of the long, cold vigil. You wait for morning, and you pray the fire does not go out. The cold that took the young. The night is a vast frozen ocean, and your hut is a tiny, fragile boat adrift on its surface. Every sound is magnified in the stillness, the creak of a roof beam settling under the weight of snow, the scuttling of a mouse in the thatch, and the cough. It is a small sound, thin and dry, but it cuts through the darkness with the sharpness of a blade. It comes from the smallest bundle on the sleeping platform, from your youngest child, a daughter born in the last days of autumn. You lie motionless, your own breath held tight in your chest. You are listening not just to the sound, but to what comes after it, the soft whimper, the struggle for breath. A few weeks ago, it was a simple sniffle, a common affliction in the damp chill of the changing seasons. But the cold has a way of working its way inside, of finding purchase in the weakest places. Now the cough is deeper, more persistent. It has a hollow rattling quality that speaks of a battle being waged in a body too small and too frail for such a fight. Your wife stirs beside you. She has not been truly asleep for days. A mother's sleep is light, tethered to the breathing of her children. She rises silently, a shadow detaching itself from the other shadows. She moves to the hearth and takes a splinter of wood, blowing on the banked embers until the tip glows red. She uses it to light a tallow candle, a precious, sputtering flame that pushes the absolute darkness back a few feet. Its light is weak and greasy, smelling of rendered animal fat, but it allows her to see.
She kneels beside the child, her face a mask of anxious love, illuminated from below by the flickering candlelight. The child is wrapped in a piece of an old blanket, her face pale and slick with sweat, despite the biting cold in the room. Her breathing is rapid and shallow, each inhale a tiny, desperate effort. Your wife touches her forehead, a gesture of profound tenderness and utter helplessness. There is no medicine. There are no herbs that can drive out the demon that has taken root in her daughter's chest. The village has a woman who knows the old ways, the poultices and the charms, but she has already been consulted. her remedies have done nothing. The priest has said his prayers, sprinkling precious holy water, but the fever has not broken. There is nothing left to do but wait, and watch, and listen. The candlelight flickers on the rough, mud-caked walls, making the shadows dance like worried spirits. You see the fear in your wife's eyes, the same fear that is a cold knot in your own stomach. You have seen this before. Every family in the village has. Winter is the great color of the young. It is a truth as old and as harsh as the stones in the field. Children are like spring blossoms. Many appear, but not all survive the frost.
The child coughs again, a racking spasm that shakes her tiny frame. A weak cry follows, a sound of pure misery that pierces your heart. Your wife dips a rag in the water barrel. The water is frigid, with a thin layer of ice on its surface, and moistens the child's cracked lips. She whispers soothing words, ancient lullabies that have been sung to fretful children for generations. They are words of comfort, but they feel like a fragile shield against an invading army. You know that if the worst happens, there will be no great ceremony. A small hole will be dug in the frozen ground of the churchyard. The priest will say a few rushed Latin words that you do not understand. And then you will return to your hut, to the endless cycle of chores, because survival does not permit the luxury of prolonged grief. The animals will still need to be fed. The fire will still need to be tended. Life, for the living, must go on. But a part of the hut will become silent forever. A space on the sleeping platform will be empty. A presence will be gone. The candle burns down, the flames sputtering in a pool of melted tallow. Your wife does not light another. They are too precious to waste. She sits in the renewed darkness, a silent vigil keeper. You lie still, feigning sleep, because there are no words of comfort you can offer that will make a difference. The only thing you can do is share the silence, share the fear. You listen to the sound of your child's struggle, and you pray to a God who feels very far away. You pray for a miracle. You pray for the fever to break. But mostly you just pray for the sun to rise, hoping its weak, watery light will bring with it a warmth that can drive the sickness away. In the deep, cold heart of a medieval winter, hope is a fragile thing, easily extinguished as a candle flame.
Warmth from the pig's side. The concept of privacy is a luxury you have never known, an idea as foreign as the silk garments the Lord's lady wears. Your world is a single, circular room, and you share it with everyone and everything that is essential to your survival. Your family sleeps beside you, their coughs and sighs and restless turnings as familiar as your own. But in the deepest, most brutal heart of winter, when the wind finds every crack in the daub and the frost paints crystalline ferns on the inside of the water barrel, you welcome other occupants onto your floor. You bring the animals inside. It is not a decision made lightly. It is an act of sheer, pragmatic desperation. The small lean-to where the pig and the 2 sheep are usually kept offers little protection against a wind that feels sharp enough to cut stone. To leave them outside on a night like this would be to find them frozen solid by morning, a catastrophic loss of future food and resources. And so, you bring them into the already cramped space of your home. A low, rudimentary barrier of woven hurdles separates the earthen floor where the animals stand from the raised wooden platform where the humans sleep. It is a token division. In reality, you are all living in one space, one shared bubble of fragile warmth against the all-consuming cold.
The smell is the first thing a stranger would notice. It is a thick, pungent aroma, a cocktail of damp earth, wood smoke, unwashed human bodies, and the sharp ammoniac tang of animal waste. But to you, it is simply the smell of home. It is the smell of life. You have grown so accustomed to it that you barely notice it, any more than you notice the air you breathe. The floor is covered with a layer of straw and bracken, meant to absorb the filth, but it is a losing battle. The ground is perpetually damp and soiled. Tonight, the cold is a physical enemy, a relentless pressure against the thin walls of your hut.
You can hear the fine, sharp sound of sleet hissing against the thatch. This is when the animal's presence transforms from a necessity into a blessing. They are not pets, they are living furnaces. The pig, a hefty sow, lies on its side, grunting softly in its sleep. The sheep are quiet, their thick, oily wool a masterpiece of natural insulation. The heat radiating from their large bodies is a tangible thing. It pushes back against the cold, raising the temperature in the small hut by a few crucial degrees. It is the difference between shivering uncontrollably and a cold that is merely bone deep. It is the difference between survival and succumbing. You lie on the edge of the sleeping platform, closest to the animal pen. You can feel the warmth from the sow's flank reaching you, a gentle, invisible wave. It is a strange and intimate comfort. This animal, which you will slaughter and salt come spring, is tonight your ally. Its life is protecting yours. You live like livestock in order to live at all. This is the unwritten contract of the peasant's winter. You protect them from the frost, and they, in turn, protect you with the simple, miraculous heat of their existence.
The sounds, too, become part of the night's liturgy. The soft chewing of cud, the pig's sudden snort, the rustle of straw as an animal shifts its weight. These are not disturbances. They are affirmations of life. They are a counterpoint to the hostile howl of the wind outside. The world outside is dead and frozen, but in here, there is breath. There is warmth. There is a shared, stubborn refusal to surrender. Sometimes, in the darkest hours before dawn, you are woken by the need to relieve yourself. You do not go outside. To open the door would be to invite the winter daemon into your home, to lose all the precious, hard-won warmth. Instead, you stumble to the corner where the slop bucket sits, its contents likely frozen solid. The line between human and animal feels very thin in these moments. You live in a space defined by the most basic bodily functions: eating, sleeping, excreting, and huddling for warmth. You look across the dim, smoky room. The faint glow from the banked hearth illuminates the scene. Your wife and children are huddled together under the blanket. A few feet away, the sheep are nestled against each other. The pig snores on. It is a portrait of survival, stripped bare of all romance and dignity. It is crude, it is filthy, but it is effective. You are a single symbiotic organism, a small island of life in a sea of frozen death. The warmth from the pig's side is not a sign of affection. It is a tool, a resource, as vital as the grain in the storage pot or the wood by the fire. You accept it without question, and you settle back into your straw, a little warmer, a little safer, to wait for the morning.
When the ale runs dry. The ale is not for celebration. It is not for intoxication. It is a tool, as essential to the winter household as the axe or the needle. It is weak, cloudy, and brewed in a large pot over the hearth from your own barley. It is often called small beer, and it is the liquid fuel of peasant life. Water from the well or the local stream is untrustworthy, liable to carry sickness. The ale, having been boiled, is safe. More than that, it is food. It is liquid bread full of calories that provide both energy and an internal warmth that water cannot. Throughout the long, dark days of winter, the ale pot is a constant presence. A mug of it, gently warmed by the fire, is the first thing you have in the morning to chase the chill from your bones. It washes down the midday meal of hard bread and dried peas. In the evening, as the family huddles around the fire, sharing a mug of ale is a communal ritual, a small comfort against the encroaching darkness. It loosens the tongue for stories and eases the ache in your joints. Its gentle, warming effect is a small, predictable pleasure in a life defined by hardship. You have been careful with this year's brewing.
You have rationed it, knowing how long the cold months can be. The large wooden barrel in the corner has been your gauge of the season's progress. Its weight, its fullness, has been a source of quiet reassurance. But winter has been long this year. The snows came early and have lingered, keeping you indoors more than usual. The monotony and the chill have made you all turn to the comfort of the ale pot more frequently. Tonight, you go to the barrel, wooden mug in hand. You turn the spigot, and instead of the familiar gurgle of flowing liquid, you hear a hollow, sputtering sound. A few last, frothy drops trickle out, and then nothing. The barrel is empty. You tap its side. The sound is light, hollow, final. The ale has run dry. A strange and profound silence seems to fall over the hut. It is not just the absence of a drink, it is the removal of a cornerstone of your winter survival. Your wife looks at you from across the hearth, her expression mirroring the sudden hollowness you feel in your own gut. The children, too young to understand the full implications, sense the shift in the atmosphere and fall quiet. You sit back down on the bench, the empty mug in your hands. A new kind of cold begins to creep in, one that has nothing to do with the temperature of the air. It is a psychological chill. The small, reliable comfort that has punctuated your days is gone. The long evenings ahead now stretch out feeling darker and more silent than before. Your hands, which often feel stiff and clumsy from the cold and the hard work, begin to tremble slightly. It is partly the cold, but it is also a newfound nervousness. The ale had a way of steadying you, of taking the sharpest edge off the constant low-level anxiety of winter. Without it, you feel more exposed, more vulnerable. The howl of the wind outside seems louder now, more personal, as if it knows a chink has appeared in your armor. The silence in the room becomes unbearable. Before, the quiet moments were filled with the companionable sipping of ale. Now, the silence is just empty. You look at your family. Their faces, usually softened in the firelight, seem starker. Their worries more clearly etched. The small talk and the old stories feel harder to summon. The social lubricant is gone. You will drink water now, of course. You will have to boil it carefully over the precious fire, consuming fuel. It will quench your thirst, but it will not warm you from the inside. It will not provide the calories your body craves. You will feel hungrier, colder. The hunger gap of late winter, when the food stores are at their lowest, will feel even more desperate without the supplementary calories from the ale. The empty barrel in the corner is a stark monument to the passing of time and the dwindling of resources. It is a reminder that your small fortress against the winter is not impregnable. Its walls are shrinking, its supplies failing. You feel a quiet, creeping dread. The end of the ale is a turning point. It is the moment when survival becomes a starker, harder, more sober business. You wrap your cold hands around the empty mug, and for the first time all winter, you truly feel the crushing weight of the nights still to come. The fire that never came. There is a hierarchy of fear in winter. There is the fear of sickness, the fear of hunger, the fear of the wolves whose howls sometimes drift from the frozen forest. But underneath them all, the foundation upon which all other fears are built, is the fear of a dead hearth, the fear of a night without fire. Tonight, that fear is real. The woodshed is empty. The last of the peat bricks cut and dried in the autumn have been turned to ash. The pile of twigs your children gathered yesterday was barely enough to boil the morning's pottage. You have scoured the frozen ground around your hut for anything that will burn. Fallen branches, hardened clumps of grass, old pieces of fence. There is nothing left. The snow lies in a thick, unforgiving blanket over the world, hiding any potential fuel beneath its suffocating weight. The wind is too fierce to risk a journey to the woods, where you might find a dead branch the Lord's reeve has overlooked. The village is hunkered down, each family guarding its own meager supply. There is nothing to be borrowed, nothing to be spared. The sun, a pale, indifferent disk, sank below the horizon hours ago. The last embers of your fire faded with it. First they glowed red, then a dull orange, and then they were gone, leaving behind a pile of gray, lifeless ash. The cold, which had been held at bay at the edges of the room, began to creep inward immediately. It was not a sudden assault, but a slow, insidious infiltration, like a rising tide of icy water.
Now, darkness is total. There is no candle, for there is no flame to light it. You are all huddled together on the single sleeping platform, a single mound of humanity under the one woolen blanket. You have pulled the damp straw from the rest of the floor up and around you, trying to create a nest, a desperate imitation of the warmth of the earth. You can hear the chattering of your children's teeth. You pull them closer, wrapping your arms around them, trying to shield them with your own body. But your body is also losing its heat, surrendering it to the ravenous cold of the room. Your breath freezes inside your nose with every inhale, a sharp, crystalline sting. When you exhale, you can feel the cloud of your own breath, warm for a fleeting second against your lips before it is snatched away by the chill. The air has a new quality to it, a clean, sharp, deadly purity that is the signature of extreme cold. In the absence of fire, sound becomes your only anchor. You listen to the breathing of your family, each one a reassurance that you are not alone in this frozen tomb. But the dominant sound is the wind. Without the crackle of the hearth to compete with it, the wind becomes a malevolent entity. It shrieks and howls around the corners of the hut. It plucks at the thatch, making it rustle and groan. It finds the smallest crack in the wall and forces its way through, a thin, piercing whistle that feels like a physical touch.
To combat the fear and the crushing silence within the hut, your wife begins to speak. Her voice is low, just above a whisper, as if a loud noise might crack the fragile structure of your shelter. She does not speak of the cold or the darkness. She tells a story. It is an old story, one you have all heard 100 times, about a clever fox who outwits a foolish bear. The children, shivering, listen intently. The familiar words are a kind of warmth, a distraction from the misery of their bodies. You join in, your voice a low rumble. You tell the story of a summer feast, describing the roasting pig, the warm bread, the sweet apples. You conjure images of sunlight and warmth, trying to build a fire in the imagination, since you cannot build one on the hearth. You speak of the feeling of sun on bare arms, the smell of cut grass, the taste of fresh berries. For a few moments, the shared memory offers a flicker of relief. You are not just shivering bodies in a dark room. You are a family, sharing a history that contains warmth, even if the present does not. But the cold is relentless. It is a physical weight pressing down on you. It makes your muscles ache and your bones feel brittle. You feel a profound lethargy creeping over you, a dangerous desire to simply stop fighting, to close your eyes and let the cold take you into its silent, peaceful embrace. You know this is the great danger. You force yourself to stay awake, to keep talking, to rub your children's arms and legs, trying to keep their blood moving. This is the ultimate test of winter. It is survival stripped to its most elemental form. There are no tools, no resources, just the heat of your own bodies and the strength of your will. You huddle in the darkness, a small knot of fading warmth in an infinite frozen world. You do not know if you will survive until morning. You can only whisper your stories into the suffocating cold, trying to forget that your own breath is freezing, and pray that the night will end.
Dung, twigs, and desperation. The concept of firewood is a luxury for the lord who can command a team of foresters to fell mighty oaks and stack cords of seasoned logs in his castle courtyard. For you, fuel is not a resource that is harvested. It is a treasure that is scavenged. It is a daily, desperate quest for anything, absolutely anything, that will burn. The day does not begin with a plan for productivity, but with a frantic calculation. What can be found to feed the insatiable hunger of the hearth? The morning is a pale gray smear of light, offering no warmth, only visibility. You leave the hut, stepping into a world of brutal, biting cold. The air is so frigid, it feels sharp in your lungs. Your first stop is the animal pen. Here, you perform the most basic and vital of tasks, collecting frozen dung. The patties of cow and sheep manure, frozen solid overnight, are a form of fuel known as bodging. You use a small, dull knife to pry them from the frozen ground, the sharp crack of their separation a satisfying sound. They are not ideal. They smolder more than they flame, and they fill the hut with a thick, acrid smoke that makes the eyes water and the throat raw. But they are calories. They are heat. They are a lifeline. You gather them in a woven basket, your fingers already stiff and numb, fumbling with the frozen clumps.
Next, you turn your attention to the trees and hedges that border your small plot of land. You are not allowed to cut living wood. That belongs to the Lord, and the penalty for poaching is severe, a fine you cannot pay, or even the loss of a hand. So you search for what the wind has given you. You walk with your head down, your eyes scanning the snow-dusted ground for wind-snapped branches, for twigs that have been torn from their moorings by the gales of the night. Each one is a small victory. You snap them into manageable lengths, the dry, cracking sound echoing in the frozen silence. Your children, wrapped in whatever spare rags you could find, join the search. Their small, sharp eyes are good at spotting the tiniest slivers of wood hiding beneath a drift of snow. Their hands are small, but they can carry a bundle of twigs. It is one of the first lessons of winter. Everyone contributes to the fire. When the ground has been picked clean, you become more desperate. You turn to the trees themselves, not with an axe, but with your bare, freezing hands. You look for loose bark that can be peeled away without leaving a telltale scar. You search for withered, dead vines clinging to the trunks. You even gather clumps of dried, frozen weeds, knowing they will burn hot and fast, a brief, intense flare that might be just enough to bring a pot of water to a simmer.
The work is slow and agonizing. Your fingers lose all feeling, becoming clumsy, useless appendages. Your back aches from bending over. The cold seeps through your thin woolen tunic and worn leather shoes. There is a constant, nagging fear in the back of your mind. Is this enough? The pile of fuel you gather seems pitifully small, a meager offering to the great cold god of winter. You know that it will be consumed in a matter of hours, and tomorrow the desperate search will have to begin all over again. You carry your precious motley collection back to the hut. The frozen dung is stacked near the hearth to thaw. The twigs and bark are arranged carefully, sorted by size. You do not simply toss them on the fire. You are a careful curator of combustion. You know which pieces will create a hot ember bed, which will produce a steady flame, and which will smolder for hours, providing a low background heat. As you kneel at the hearth, carefully arranging the first pieces of fuel on the glowing embers you coaxed back to life, you feel a profound sense of relief. You have done it. You have secured another day of warmth. You have held the cold at bay for a few more hours. It is a victory, but a temporary one. The desperation never truly leaves. It is a constant companion, a shadow that walks beside you as you scrape together the pathetic, essential scraps that mean the difference between life and death. The fire on your hearth is not built from wood. It is built from dung, twigs, and desperation.
Water from ice, bread from stone. In the world of summer, the fundamentals of life are taken for granted. Water flows freely from the village well. The grain from the harvest is soft and yields easily to the grinding stone. But winter transforms these simple elements into adversaries. It turns water to ice and bread to stone, and it forces you to expend precious energy and fuel just to make them fit for consumption. The daily struggle is not just to find food, but to make the food you have usable. Your day begins with the quest for water. You trudge through the snow to the communal well at the center of the village. The wind cuts across the open space, and your exposed face feels raw and numb. The well is not the simple flowing source it is in warmer months. A thick, solid cap of ice has formed over its surface, a lid of frozen crystal. The bucket, a crude wooden vessel bound with iron hoops, lies on its side, frozen to the ground. You and another villager must first work together to break the bucket free. Then comes the real work. You take turns with a heavy pole, smashing it against the ice in the well, trying to break through to the liquid water below. It is exhausting, repetitive work. Your arms ache, and your breath comes in ragged white clouds. Each blow sends a jarring shock up the length of the pole. Finally, with a deep, resonant crack, the ice gives way. A dark circle of water appears. You quickly lower the bucket, its rope stiff and frozen, and haul up the frigid, life-giving liquid. You work fast, knowing that the hole will begin to freeze over again almost immediately. You carry the heavy, sloshing bucket back to your hut, spilling precious drops that freeze instantly into tiny pearls on the path.
This water is not yet ready to drink. It is dangerously cold, and to drink it as is would be to steal precious heat from your own body. So a portion of your morning's fuel must be sacrificed to heat it. You hang a soot-blackened pot over the hearth and wait for the water to warm, watching the steam rise like a welcome spirit. Only then can it be used for drinking or for making the daily pottage. Then there's the bread. It was baked weeks ago in the communal oven that serves the entire village. It was made to last, a dense, heavy loaf of rye and barley flour with a thick, hard crust. Now, in the cold, damp air of the hut, it has become as hard as a piece of oak. To try and bite it would be to risk breaking a tooth, a disaster in an age without dentistry. So the bread, too, must be tamed. You take a knife, not to slice it, for that is impossible, but to chip away at it, sending hard, dry crumbs scattering. You gather these crumbs and place them in a wooden bowl. You pour a little of the warmed water over them, or perhaps some of the watery dregs from the bottom of the pottage pot. You let them soak, watching as they slowly, grudgingly soften, absorbing the liquid and becoming a coarse, edible mash.
Sometimes you warm a piece of the bread by the fire, holding it close to the embers until it becomes slightly less unyielding. You might wrap a small piece in a fold of your tunic, letting the faint warmth of your own body slowly soften it over the course of the morning. You eat it slowly, deliberately, chewing each mouthful thoroughly. Every crumb is precious. It is the fuel for your own internal furnace, the energy that will allow you to go out and face the cold again tomorrow. This is the rhythm of your day, a series of small, hard-won battles against the intransigence of the frozen world. You melt ice to get water. You soften stone to get bread. Every act of basic sustenance is an act of labor. Nothing is easy. Nothing is given freely. You are in a constant negotiation with the elements, trading your energy, your time, and your precious fuel for the simple necessities of life. And with each successful negotiation, with each mug of warm water and each mouthful of softened bread, you earn another day.
Waking before the light. The rooster has not yet crowed. The world outside is a void, a canvas of absolute black, untouched by even the faintest promise of dawn. But you are awake. You have not been woken by a sound or dream. You have been summoned by a deeper, more ancient clock, the internal rhythm of duty and survival. To wake in the darkness is the first act of defiance against the tyranny of winter. Your first sensation is the cold. It is a physical presence, a weight that has settled upon you in the night. It is not the sharp, biting cold of the outdoors, but a deep, penetrating chill that seems to have sunk into your very bones. It lives in your joints, making them ache with a dull, persistent throb. It wraps itself around your spine, a cold serpent that makes the thought of moving an act of supreme will. You lie still for a moment, gathering your strength. The air you breathe is frigid, and you can feel the familiar sting in your nostrils. The temptation to remain here, curled under the thin blanket in the relative warmth of the huddle of bodies, is immense. It is a siren call to surrender, to let the cold have its way. But you cannot. The work must begin. The fire, the animals, the water, they do not wait for the sun. You swing your legs off the sleeping platform and your bare feet meet the frozen earthen floor. The shock of the cold is violent, a jolt that shoots up your entire body. It is a brutal but effective way to banish the last vestiges of sleep. You do not own shoes in the way a modern person might. You have a pair of rough leather turn shoes, stiff with cold and damp, which you will put on only when you venture outside. Inside, you are barefoot. Your first task is always the same: the fire. You move through the darkness with a practiced familiarity, your hands knowing the location of the hearth, the pile of kindling, the tinderbox. You kneel on the cold stones. The embers from the night before are a faint, almost imperceptible warmth beneath a thick blanket of ash. You gently blow on them, your breath a prayer for life. At first, nothing. Then, a tiny, hopeful spark. You feed it the most delicate materials you have, a bit of dried moss, a shred of linen lint. You blow again, softly, steadily. The spark catches, a small incandescent flower blooming in the darkness. You add the smallest twigs, building a fragile lattice over the nascent flame. You watch, holding your breath as the fire licks at the new fuel. For a moment, it sputters and threatens to die. Your heart clenches. Then it catches, and a small, steady flame is born. A wave of relief washes over you. You have won the first battle of the day. With the fire established, you move to the next task. You must check on the animals if they are inside. You feel their flanks, ensure they are not shivering,
that they have survived the night. You give them a handful of precious dried fodder. Their soft, warm breath mists in the air, a comforting sign of life. The world outside is still silent and dark, but inside your hut, a new day has begun. It has begun not with the light of the sun, but with the light of your own making. It has begun with the conscious act of pushing back against the cold and the darkness. Your joints still ache. The cold still wraps around your spine. But you are moving. You are working. You have risen before the light, not because you are ordered to, but because you must. It is a quiet, daily act of courage, an affirmation that even in the deepest, darkest heart of winter, you will not surrender. You will rise, you will work, and you will endure. The fields that sleep. The work of the day is mostly confined to the small circle of your hut and the immediate yard. There is wood to be gathered, water to be fetched, tools to be mended. But at some point, usually in the brief, pale light of midday when the sun is at its highest and least effective, you find yourself walking to the edge of your fields. There is no practical reason for this journey. The land is useless to you now. It is a vast, empty canvas of white, smothered under a thick blanket of snow. The path you take is one you have walked 1,000 times, but it is different now. The familiar ruts and bumps are gone, smoothed over by the snow. The silence is profound. In summer, this place is alive with the hum of insects, the rustle of wind through the barley, the shouts of your neighbors. Now, the silence is so deep, it feels like a physical presence. The snow mufflets all sound, absorbing it, creating a world of muffled stillness. You stand at the edge of the long, narrow strips of land that are your family's portion. They lie dormant, sleeping under their white shroud. The ridges of the plow, carved into the earth with such effort in the autumn, are now just soft, undulating waves in the snow. It is impossible to imagine anything growing here. The ground is as hard as iron, locked in the grip of the frost. The world seems dead, sterile, and eternal in its whiteness. And yet you do not feel despair as you look out over this frozen expanse. You feel a sense of quiet anticipation. This is not an act of work, it is an act of faith. You are a farmer. Your life is bound to the rhythm of this land. Even when it is sleeping, your connection to it remains. You are checking on it, as you would check on a sleeping child. You scan the horizon, your eyes accustomed to reading the subtle language of the landscape. You note the way the snow has drifted against the hedge, a sign of the prevailing wind. You look at the sky, a flat pearlescent gray, and try to guess what weather it holds. Will there be more snow? Will the wind rise? These are the questions that occupy your mind. You think of the seeds that lie dormant in the earth beneath the snow. The winter wheat, sown in the autumn, is down there, a tiny frozen promise of life. You cannot see it. You have no proof that it has survived the deep freeze, but you believe it is there. You have to believe it. This belief is the foundation of your existence. It is the knowledge that this season of death is temporary, that the cycle will turn, and that life will return to these fields.
Sometimes, a neighbor might be doing the same, standing at the edge of his own strip of land. You will not shout a greeting across the expanse. The stillness feels too sacred to break. You will simply raise a hand in a slow, silent acknowledgement. It is a shared ritual, a mutual understanding. You are both keepers of the sleeping land, guardians of a future promise. The cold begins to seep into your bones, reminding you that you cannot linger. You have stood here long enough. You turn your back on the white fields and begin the walk back to your hut.
back to the immediate, pressing needs of the day. But the visit has served its purpose. It has reconnected you to the larger rhythm of your life, beyond the cramped, smoky confines of your winter shelter. It has reminded you that you are part of a cycle, and that this season of dormancy is just one part of it. The fields sleep, but they are not dead, and as long as they hold the promise of spring, you can endure the cold of today.
The blistering freeze. There is cold, and then there is the cold. There is the familiar gnawing chill of a normal winter day, the kind that makes your joints ache and your breath mist. And then there is the blistering freeze, a different beast entirely. It arrives on the back of a wind from the north, a wind that feels not just cold, but sharp, as if it is full of tiny, invisible shards of glass. This is the cold that kills. It is not an inconvenience. It is an active, malevolent force. On a day like this, the world changes. The sky becomes a hard, brilliant, merciless blue. The sun is a lie, a bright, useless disk in the sky that offers no warmth, only a blinding glare off the snow. The very air seems to have become brittle, and the simple act of breathing hurts. Each inhale is a sharp, searing pain deep in your lungs. You must still venture outside. The animals need fodder, no matter the weather. The water bucket will not fill itself. You bundle yourself in every layer you possess. You wrap strips of cloth around your leather shoes, a futile attempt to add another layer of insulation. You pull your woolen hood down low, leaving only a small slit for your eyes. But it is not enough. The cold finds its way through every defense. The first thing you lose is the feeling in your fingers and toes. It is not a gradual numbing, but a swift, sudden departure. One moment they are aching with cold. The next, they are simply gone. Clumsy, useless appendages at the ends of your limbs. You know this is the first stage of frostbite, the great danger of this kind of weather. You curl and uncurl your fingers inside your mittens, not because you can feel them, but because you know you must keep the blood moving. Your face is the next to suffer. The wind sandblasts your exposed cheeks, leaving them feeling raw and stretched as if the skin is about to crack. Your lips become numb and stiff, making it difficult to speak. A crust of ice forms in your eyebrows and on the edges of your hood from the moisture of your own breath. You feel as if you are slowly being encased in a shell of ice. You do not scream. You do not cry out. There is no point. To open your mouth wide would be to invite the searing cold deeper into your body. Endurance in this weather is a silent, internal battle. You narrow your focus to the task at hand. You move with a deliberate, almost robotic slowness. Every movement is a calculation, weighing the necessity of the task against the cost in warmth and energy.
You see it in others, too. The other villagers move like ghosts through the frozen landscape, their heads bowed, their shoulders hunched against the wind. There are no greetings, no pleasantries. All energy is conserved for the singular purpose of survival. You have seen what this cold can do. You have seen a shepherd whose fingers, after a day spent tending his flock in a blizzard, turned black and fell off, leaving him with useless stumps for the rest of his life. You have heard stories of travelers found frozen solid on the road, their faces locked in a mask of surprise. The fear of this fate is a cold knot in your stomach, but you push it down. Panic is a luxury you cannot afford. Panic makes you clumsy, makes you sweat, and sweat is a death sentence in this cold, for it freezes against your skin. When you finally return to the relative shelter of your hut, the pain begins. As feeling slowly, agonizingly returns to your extremities, it is not a gentle tingling, but a fiery, excruciating agony.
It feels as if your fingers and toes are being pricked with 1,000 red-hot needles. You grit your teeth and endure it, because this pain is a sign of life. It is the proof that you have won. You have faced the blistering freeze and returned. Your fingers may be blistered, your lips may be cracked, but you are whole. You have survived another day at the mercy of the iron cold.
Dreams beneath a low roof. The night is an eternity. It is a vast black desert of time that you must cross every single day. As you lie on the rustling straw, the physical world offers no comfort. The cold is a constant presence. The darkness is absolute. The air is thick with smoke. And so, you escape into the only place of warmth and light that is left to you, the landscape of your own mind. You fall into dreams. The dreams are almost always of warmth. They are vivid, sensory-rich fantasies of opposition to your waking reality. You dream of summer. You feel the sun, a heavy golden blanket on your bare arms. You are standing in the field, not the frozen sleeping field of winter, but the vibrant, living field of July. The barley is high, its heads nodding in a warm breeze. You can smell the rich, loamy scent of the earth and the sweet perfume of wildflowers growing in the hedgerow. The world is full of color, the deep blue of the sky, the green of the leaves, the yellow of the grain. In your dreams, you are never hungry. You dream of the harvest feast. You see a great table laden with food you have not tasted in months. There is fresh, soft bread, still warm from the oven. There is a whole roasted pig, its skin crackling and dripping with fat. There are bowls of fresh peas, sweet apples, and dark, juicy berries. You can taste it all, the richness, the sweetness, the sheer, unbelievable abundance of it all. You eat without fear, without rationing, without the gnawing anxiety of the hungry gap.
Sometimes you dream of fire. Not the small, smoky, temperamental hearth of your hut, but a great, roaring bonfire, the kind that is lit on feast days. The flames leap high into the night sky, a pillar of defiant orange against the darkness. You stand close to it, so close you can feel the intense, blistering heat on your face. It is a cleansing heat, a heat that sinks deep into your bones and burns out the winter chill that has taken up permanent residence there. You are not cold. For once, you are utterly, completely warm. These dreams are a sanctuary. They are a nightly pilgrimage to a paradise of memory and longing. They are so real, so powerful, that the moment of waking is a form of violence. It is not a gentle stirring, but a harsh expulsion from Eden. You are torn from the warm, sun-drenched field and thrown back into the cold, damp darkness of the hut. The first thing you register is the cold, a shocking, unwelcome reality. Then come the sounds that shatter the warm illusions of your sleep. The drip, drip, drip of melting frost from the thatch hitting the floor, the relentless, mournful cry of the wind, the sound of your own child coughing in the darkness. The dream of abundance vanishes, replaced by the gnawing reality of your empty stomach. The dream of the sunlit sky is gone, replaced by the oppressive weight of the low, smoke-blackened roof just a few feet above your face.
The transition is brutal. It leaves you with a feeling of profound loss, a deep, aching nostalgia for a world that was, for a moment, more real than your own. You lie still, the memory of the dream warmth fading, the reality of the physical cold reasserting its dominance. The dreams are a gift, a temporary reprieve, but they are also a cruelty. They remind you of everything you do not have. They make the harshness of the waking world even harder to bear. Yet you know that tonight, when the darkness falls again, you will pray for their return. You will pray to be transported once more to that place of warmth and light, because even a dreamed-of sun is better than no sun at all.
The one room you share. The world is a single room. It has always been this way. The concept of separate spaces for separate functions, a room for sleeping, a room for eating, a room for living, is an abstraction you cannot even conceive of. Your life, in its entirety, is contained within these four wattle and daub walls. It is a life lived in relentless, unavoidable proximity to others. You sleep elbow to elbow, a single, tangled mass of humanity on the straw-covered platform. There is no personal space. You are acutely aware of every movement, every shift in weight, every sigh, and every snore. When your son has a nightmare and cries out, he is inches from your face. When your wife turns over, her arm brushes against your back. You sleep in a shared sea of breath and body heat. This proximity is both a comfort and a curse. It is a comfort because it is a source of warmth. The collective heat generated by your family and by the animals who share the room is a significant defense against the killing cold. To sleep alone in winter would be to freeze. You huddle together out of necessity, a small herd seeking survival in numbers. There is a primal reassurance in feeling the presence of others, a silent confirmation that you are not alone in the long, dark night. But it is also a curse, for there is no escape. There is no privacy. There are no secrets. Every aspect of life is a public performance. The arguments between you and your wife are whispered, but they are overheard. The act of love is a hurried, silent fumbling under the blanket, fraught with the knowledge that others are sleeping only feet away. Sickness is a shared experience. A cough from one person is a harbinger of a cough for all. The smells of digestion, of sickness, of unwashed bodies are a constant, unavoidable part of the atmosphere.
The room contains not just the people, but the sum total of your worldly possessions. Everything you own is visible. The single cooking pot sits by the hearth, blackened with soot. The wooden bowls and spoons are stacked on a low shelf. The loom, a large, cumbersome frame, dominates one wall. Your tools, the axe, the adze, the sickle, hang from wooden pegs. The clay pot containing your precious store of grain sits in the corner, a symbol of your future survival. There is nowhere to hide anything, nowhere to put something away. Your entire life is on display, a sparse and functional inventory of existence. You sleep in the same air, but you dream different dreams. You lie beside your wife, feeling the rhythm of her breathing, and wonder what she is thinking. Does she worry about the same things? Does she dream of the same summer fields? You look at your son, his face peaceful in sleep, and you wonder what kind of man he will become, what kind of world he will inherit. This shared space, paradoxically, can create a profound sense of internal isolation. Surrounded by others, you are often lost in your own thoughts, your own fears, your own hopes. The single room is a microcosm of your social world. It is a space of intense, enforced community. You learn to read the smallest cues, the subtle shift in your wife's breathing that tells you she is awake, the slight tremor in your child's sleep that signals a coming fever. You learn to modulate your own presence, to move quietly, to speak softly, to take up as little space as possible. You learn the intricate, unspoken dance of cohabitation. This life, lived in one room, shapes you. It erodes any sense of individualism. You are not a solitary entity. You're part of a family unit,
a single organism. Your well-being is inextricably linked to theirs. Their hunger is your hunger. Their sickness is your sickness. Their survival is your survival. The walls of your hut do not just enclose your family, they define it. You are one body, one life, sharing one room, under one low roof, against the vast, indifferent cold of the world.
A candle for the dead. Winter is a season of subtraction. It takes the leaves from the trees, the warmth from the sun, the food from the fields, and sometimes it takes the people. Death in winter is not a dramatic, unexpected event. It is a quiet, predictable visitor, as much a part of the season as the frost and the long nights. It comes for the very old and the very young, for those whose grip on life is already fragile. Tonight, it came for the old man in the hut across the path. He was your wife's grandfather, a man whose face was a road map of forgotten seasons, whose hands were gnarled and twisted from a lifetime of labor. He had been fading for weeks, retreating from the world into a silent landscape of memory. The cold finally crept into his bones and extinguished the flickering flame of his life. There is no wailing, no public display of grief. Emotion is a luxury, and its extravagant expenditure is a waste of energy needed for survival. The sorrow is a quiet, heavy thing, a stone that settles in your gut. His daughter, your wife's mother, sits by the cold body, her face impassive, but her hands are never still. They are methodically cleaning, preparing the body for its final journey. It is a practical, necessary task, a final act of service. A single tallow candle has been lit and placed near the old man's head. Its flame is a small, precious beacon in the oppressive gloom. Candles are a significant expense, reserved for the most important occasions, a birth, a major feast day, and a death. This small flame is a symbol of respect, a recognition that a life, however humble, has passed. It is a light to guide the spirit on its way, a fragile defiance against the absolute darkness that has claimed him. You sit by your own hearth, watching the goings-on from a respectful distance. You do not speak. There are no words to offer. Everyone in the village knows the truth of winter. Everyone has lost someone to the cold. It is a shared, unspoken understanding. You know that you are next. Perhaps not this winter, perhaps not for many winters to come, but your own mortality feels stark and undeniable in the presence of the dead. You are part of the same cycle. You will one day be the body on the platform, and your son will be the one watching, learning the quiet rituals of grief. The death brings with it a series of practical concerns. The old man was another mouth to feed, another body to keep warm. His passing, in the cold calculus of winter survival, means a slightly larger share of the dwindling food stores for the rest of his family. It is a thought that brings a sharp pang of guilt, but it is an unavoidable truth. Survival forces you to think in these brutal, pragmatic terms.
The body cannot be buried immediately. The ground is frozen as hard as iron, and it will take the men of the village half a day of back-breaking work with picks and shovels to dig a shallow grave in the churchyard. So the old man will remain in the hut for a day, perhaps two, a silent, cold guest among the living. His presence is a constant, stark reminder of the fragility of life. You look at your own family, huddled near the fire. You look at your aging father, who coughs more this winter than last. You look at your youngest child, who has finally shaken off the fever that plagued her earlier in the season. You are caught between the past and the future, between the life that has just ended and the lives you are responsible for protecting. The candle for the dead burns slowly, its small flame consuming the precious fat. It is a quiet vigil. It is a testament to a life lived, a life of hardship, of labor, of endurance. When the candle finally gutters and dies, the hut will be plunged back into darkness, but the memory of its small light will remain. It is a symbol of the respect the living pay to the dead, a fragile spark of humanity in the face of the overwhelming, indifferent cold.
Visitors in the dark. The world of the medieval peasant is small and bounded by daylight. The forest that marks the edge of the village fields is a place of resources: wood, nuts, berries. But when night falls, especially in the deep, snow-muffled silence of winter, it becomes something else. It becomes the border to another world, a realm of darkness and danger, both real and imagined. The night is full of visitors. The most tangible of these are the wolves. In summer, they keep to the deep woods, hunting deer and boar. But winter is a lean time for them, too. Hunger makes them bold. On the coldest, stillest nights, you can hear them. It starts as a single mournful howl, a sound that seems to hang in the frozen air, pure and lonely. Then another voice answers, and another, until a chorus of howls rises and falls, a chilling song that speaks of primal hunger and the wildness that presses in on all sides of your small, fragile village. You listen from the relative safety of your hut, the small hairs on your arms standing on end. You tell yourself the door is barred, the walls are solid enough, but the sound seems to pass right through them. It is a reminder that your village is a small, precarious island of humanity in a vast, untamed wilderness. You have seen the wolves' tracks in the snow circling the village, and you have heard the stories of a lone traveler who did not make it home, or of a sheep taken from its pen in the dead of night. The fear is real and visceral.
But there are other visitors, visitors who are not of flesh and blood. The darkness is populated by the fears and superstitions of your faith and your folklore. The long winter nights are the time when the barrier between the world of the living and the world of the spirits grows thin. You believe that the souls of the unbaptized, or those who died a violent death, wander the frozen landscape, eternally restless, their ghostly cries sometimes mistaken for the whistle of the wind. The forest is the home of other, older things, goblins, sprites, and the fey folk, who are not the whimsical creatures of later stories, but powerful, capricious, and often malevolent beings. They might sour your milk, lead a traveler astray into a frozen marsh, or steal a healthy child from its bed and leave a sickly, wizened changeling in its place. Every unexplained event, every stroke of bad luck, can be attributed to the meddling of these unseen neighbors. Inside your hut, every sound takes on a new significance. The creak of the roof is not just the house settling. It could be a spirit pressing down on the thatch. The skittering sound in the walls is not just a mouse. It could be a goblin trying to find a way in. The sudden draft that makes the hearth fire flicker is not just the wind. It is the passing of something unseen. You do not speak of these fears directly. You do not name the things you are afraid of, for to name them is to give them power. Instead, you rely on the small rituals of protection. A piece of iron, like a horseshoe or an old nail, hung over the door is believed to repel evil spirits. Certain herbs, gathered in the summer and dried, are hung from the rafters for the same purpose. The sign of the cross, hastily made in the air, is a shield against both the seen and the unseen. These beliefs are not foolish superstitions to you. They are a rational framework for understanding a world that is full of danger and uncertainty. They provide a sense of control, however illusory. They are a way of imposing order on the chaos of the night. So you lie in the darkness listening. You listen to the real howls of the hungry wolves outside. You listen to the imagined whispers of the restless spirits. You listen to the creaks and groans of your home. The visitors of the night, both real and spectral, are a constant presence. They are a reminder that your small, smoky hut is not a fortress, but a permeable shelter, and that the world beyond your door is filled with things that are ancient, powerful, and utterly indifferent to your survival.
The village breathes together. The crushing isolation of a snowbound winter, it would be easy to feel utterly alone, a single family, sealed in a tomb of wattle and daub. Yet you are not alone. Your hut is one of a small cluster, a hamlet, huddled together against the vast empty landscape. And on the stillest nights, when the wind dies down, you become aware that the entire village is breathing together. The silence is the key. When the wind is howling, it isolates each dwelling, wrapping it in its own private storm. But when the wind drops, a different kind of soundscape emerges. It is a tapestry woven from the faint, almost subliminal sounds of communal life. You can hear the distant, muffled cough from a neighbor's hut, a sound carried with impossible clarity on the dense, cold air. It is a sound of shared affliction, a reminder that the winter sickness is a visitor in every home. You can sometimes hear the fretful cry of a baby, a thin, reedy sound that seems to hang in the space between the houses. You know that in that other hut, a mother is doing exactly what your wife would be doing, pacing, rocking, whispering soothing words in the darkness. Her struggle is your struggle. Her fear is your fear.
Smoke is the other great connector. During the day, the smoke from each hearth rises in a thin gray plume, a visible sign of life. It is a silent conversation between the houses. A chimney that has stopped smoking is a cause for concern. It means a hearth has gone cold. A family is in trouble. A neighbor might be sent to check, to offer a hot ember from their own fire, a small act of communal responsibility. The smoke is the village's shared breath, a collective exhalation against the cold sky. Even silence is shared. When the last embers are banked for the night and the last story has been told, a profound stillness settles over the hamlet. It is not an empty silence. It is a silence filled with the presence of others. You know that in the dozen or so huts around you, other families are doing exactly what you are doing, huddling for warmth, listening to the darkness, waiting for morning. This shared experience creates an invisible bond, a sense of collective endurance. You are all in this together, a small human fleet weathering the same storm. The layout of the village itself reinforces this sense of community. The huts are clustered around a central green, where the well is located. The church, a small, simple stone structure, stands at one end, its presence a constant reminder of the shared faith that binds you. The paths between the houses, trodden into the snow, are arteries of connection. They are the routes for borrowing a tool, for sharing a bit of news, for bringing a bowl of pottage to a sick or elderly neighbor. This communal breathing is most palpable during a crisis. If a wolf is heard too close to the village, a silent alarm passes from house to house. If a fire breaks out, the entire village mobilizes, forming a human chain with buckets from the well. Your survival is not just your own affair. It is a collective responsibility. A weakness in one family is a weakness in the village as a whole. So as you lie in the darkness, you listen. You listen past the sounds of your own home out into the frozen night. You listen for the coughs, the cries, the silences. You are a single cell in a larger organism. You are part of a village that is hunkered down, conserving its strength and breathing, slowly and deliberately, together. It is this shared rhythm, this knowledge that you are not alone in your struggle, that gives you the strength to face another day. The village breathes as one, and in that shared breath, there is a quiet, powerful hope.
The holy heat of soup. In a life stripped bare by winter, value is redefined. Gold, silver, fine cloth. These are the currencies of lords and merchants. Your currency is warmth. And there is no warmth more sacred, more profound than that of a simple bowl of hot soup. It is more than mere food. It is a sacrament, a moment of grace in a world of hardship. The soup is not a grand affair. It is pottage, the perpetual stew that sits by the hearth day after day. Its base is the coarse flour of barley or peas, boiled with water into a thick, gruel-like consistency. Into this pot goes everything you have: a handful of dried beans, a few slices of a wizened turnip pulled from the root cellar, a sliver of the tough, salty meat you cured in the autumn. On a good day, you might add a wild onion or a bit of dried herb for flavor. The ingredients are meager, but the fire transforms them. Over long, slow hours of simmering, it coaxes out their flavor and melds them into a single, nourishing whole. The ritual of eating the soup is the focal point of the evening. As dusk falls, your wife ladles the thick, steaming liquid into rough wooden bowls. The sight of the steam rising from the bowl is a promise of the comfort to come. It is a visual manifestation of heat, a spirit rising to meet you. You hold the bowl in your hands, and for the first time all day, a true, deep warmth begins to seep into your body. You cradle it, your numb, chill-blained fingers slowly coming back to life as the heat from the bowl penetrates them. This simple act of holding the bowl is a pleasure in itself, a silent communion with the source of all comfort.
You do not eat quickly. You sip the soup slowly, deliberately. The first spoonful is a revelation. The heat spreads from your mouth down into your chest, a molten core of warmth that radiates outward, pushing back the deep internal chill. It is a feeling of pure, unadulterated bliss. You close your eyes, shutting out the smoky, dim hut, and focus entirely on the sensation. For this one moment, the world is quiet. The gnawing anxiety about the dwindling food stores, the fear of the cold, the ache in your bones, it all recedes. There is only the holy heat of the soup. Each ingredient, however humble, is identifiable. You can taste the earthy sweetness of the turnip, the salty tang of the cured pork, the comforting blandness of the barley. It is a complex and deeply satisfying flavor, a taste of all the hard work of the past year, the planting, the harvesting, the preserving, concentrated into a single bowl. You watch your children eat. They are not as patient. They slurp the soup eagerly, their faces flushed from the steam. A rare look of contentment settles over them. For a few minutes, they are not cold, they are not hungry. They are simply warm and full. Seeing this is a warmth of a different kind, a deep paternal satisfaction that eases the constant worry in your heart. When the bowl is empty, you use a piece of hard bread to wipe it clean, ensuring that not a single precious drop is wasted. The warmth lingers inside you, a pleasant, heavy feeling in your stomach. It is a temporary reprieve, you know. In a few hours, the cold will begin to creep back in, and the hunger will return, but the memory of the warmth remains. The single bowl of warm broth is a daily miracle. It is a reminder that even in the midst of the most profound scarcity, there can be moments of comfort, of satisfaction, of grace. It is worth more than a jewel because you can eat it. It is worth more than gold because it can make you feel alive. In the deep, dark heart of a medieval winter, warmth is holiness, and soup is its communion.
The blanket that saved you.
You own very few things that are soft. Your life is a world of hard, rough textures. The splintery wood of the bench, the cold stone of the hearth, the packed, unyielding earth of the floor. The clothes you wear are made of coarse, scratchy wool, a constant, abrasive reminder of your station. In this landscape of hardness, the blanket is an anomaly. It is the closest thing to comfort you possess. It is not a beautiful object. It is a rectangle of hand-woven wool, the color of mud and smoke. It is heavy, stiff, and patched in a dozen places with scraps of other, older blankets. The threads are frayed at the edges, and it carries the permanent, indelible scent of your life. Wood smoke, damp straw, and the faint, musky smell of unwashed human bodies. But it is your most prized possession. It is the shield that stands between your family and the killing cold of the night. The blanket has a history. It was woven by your wife's mother on a simple, upright loom, the same loom that now stands in the corner of your hut. The wool came from the family's own sheep, sheared in the spring, washed in the stream, and spun into thread on hand over a drop spindle over the course of countless winter evenings. Every inch of it represents hours of patient, painstaking labor. It is not a product of a factory. It is a vessel of time and effort, a tangible piece of a life.
When you lie down to sleep, the act of pulling the blanket over your family is a nightly ritual of protection. It is a heavy, reassuring weight. It settles over you, and the world outside, the wind, the snow, the darkness, seems to recede. It does not create warmth, but it captures it. It traps the collective body heat of your family, creating a small, fragile microclimate of survivable air. You tuck it in around the edges of the sleeping platform, sealing yourselves in, creating a nest against the night. The blanket holds memories. You can remember being a small child, huddled under this same blanket with your parents. You can remember the night your first son was born, wrapped in its folds as he took his first breaths. You can remember huddling under it during a fever, its weight a comforting pressure as you shivered. The blanket has absorbed the joys and sorrows, the sickness and health, the life and death of your family. It is a silent, textile chronicle of your existence. Sometimes you trace the patterns of the patches with your finger in the darkness. This square of darker wool came from your grandfather's old tunic. This strip of lighter wool was part of a blanket that belonged to a family who died of the sweating sickness years ago. It is a mosaic of survival, pieced together from the remnants of other lives.
On the coldest nights, the blanket is what saves you. When the fire burns low and the drafts seem to come from every direction, it is the last line of defense. You pull it over your heads, creating a small, dark tent. The air inside becomes warm and thick with your shared breath. It is stuffy and claustrophobic, but it is warm. It is life. You see the way your children clutch it in their sleep, their small hands tangled in its frayed edges. To them, it is a source of security as much as warmth. It is a constant, reliable presence in their uncertain world. The blanket is more than just a piece of woven wool. It is a portable home. It is a repository of memory. It is a shield. It is the single most important object in your struggle for survival. As you lie beneath its heavy, familiar weight, you feel a sense of profound, unspoken gratitude.
This rough, smelly, patched-up piece of cloth is the thread that holds your family together through the long, cold night. It is the blanket that saved you. Fire as family. If your hut is the body of your world, the hearth is its soul. It is more than a place for burning fuel. It is the absolute center of your existence, the anchor around which all of life revolves. You do not worship the fire in a formal, religious sense, but you treat it with a reverence that borders on the sacred. It is a member of the family, the most demanding, the most vital, and the most powerful member of all. Its life begins before dawn, when you coax it from the slumbering embers. This is a moment of quiet tension, a daily test of your skill and luck. When the first flame catches, it is like witnessing a birth. You nurture it, feed it small, delicate morsels of tinder, and watch it grow. As it strengthens, its character changes. It crackles and hisses, a living voice in the silent hut. It has moods. Sometimes it burns bright and hot with little effort. Other times it is sullen and smoky, refusing to cooperate, demanding constant attention. You learn to read its language, to understand its needs. The fire is the great provider. It is the source of all warmth, the force that holds the deadly winter cold at bay. To sit near it is to feel its power flow into you, unknotting your stiff muscles, chasing the chill from your bones. Its light is the only light you have, pushing back the oppressive darkness and creating a small golden circle of habitation. In its flickering glow, the familiar objects of your home, the loom, the pots, the sleeping faces of your children, are rendered soft and magical. It is the light by which your wife spins wool, by which you mend a broken tool, by which stories are told.
The fire is the family cook, the single soot-blackened pot that hangs from a hook over the flames is the source of all your meals. The fire transforms the raw, unpalatable ingredients of your life into nourishing food. It boils the water, making it safe to drink. It simmers the pottage, melding the meager ingredients into something warm and life-sustaining. The smell of the food cooking, mingling with the smell of the wood smoke, is the defining aroma of home. The hearth is the family altar. It is the place of gathering. When the work of the day is done, the entire family gravitates towards it, huddling together on the low benches that surround it. You are drawn to it like moths to a flame. It is here that the day's news is shared, that plans are made, that disputes are settled. It is here that the old stories are passed down, the oral history of your people kept alive by the firelight dancing on the storyteller's face. It is a silent witness to the entire spectrum of human experience. Children are conceived in the warmth of its glow. Babies are born by its side, the fire providing the heat needed for the newborn's fragile body. The sick are tended here, hoping its warmth will drive out the fevers and chills. And the dead are laid out by its side for their final vigil before burial. The fire is present for the beginning, the middle, and the end of life. It is the constant, unchanging backdrop to the human drama. You feel a deep personal connection to it. Tending the fire is your most important duty. You feed it, you clean the ashes from its bed, you protect it from being extinguished. In return, it protects you. It is a symbiotic relationship, a partnership against the harshness of the world. As you sit before it in the evening, watching the flames dance and shift, you feel a sense of peace. The fire is alive, it is strong, and it is here.
And as long as the fire is alive, your family is alive. Borrowed warmth. In the brutal arithmetic of winter, self-sufficiency is a myth. No single family, no matter how industrious or prepared, can be an island. The cold is too powerful, the resources too scarce. Survival is not a solitary endeavor. It is a communal act, a fragile web of shared hardship and borrowed warmth. The currency of this community is not coin, but kindness. It is a system of obligation and reciprocity, unspoken but universally understood. Today you have a little extra wood. Your neighbor whose youngest child is sick has burned through his supply. You do not wait for him to ask. You see the weakness of the smoke rising from his chimney. You take a few precious logs, a significant portion of your own supply, and carry them across the frozen path to his door. You do not say much. Words are unnecessary. You simply hand him the wood. He nods, his face a mask of weary gratitude. You have not given him a gift. You have made an investment in the collective survival. You know that next week or next month the roles may be reversed. His child may be well, and yours may be sick, and he will remember. This is the principle of borrowed warmth. It is the understanding that the community is a single body, and a sickness in one part affects the whole. The most precious resource is not a physical object, but trust.
The ultimate act of borrowing warmth is the sharing of fire itself. If a family's hearth goes out on a freezing night and they cannot revive it, it is a catastrophic emergency. The father will take a small, covered pot with a bit of dry moss in the bottom and go to a neighbor's hut. He will not ask for wood, he will ask for a coal. His neighbor will use a pair of tongs to pull a single glowing ember from the heart of their own fire and place it carefully in the pot. The man will then hurry back to his own cold hearth, shielding the precious, life-giving coal from the wind. This single ember is a spark of hope, a gift of pure life. To give a coal is to share the very soul of your own home. This borrowing extends to food as well. If your neighbor's grain store is spoiled by damp, you will give him a small portion of your own, even if it means your own family's rations will be thinner. You do so because you know that a starving neighbor is a desperate neighbor, and desperation can fracture the delicate social fabric of the village. It is better to be a little hungry together than to be well-fed alone in a community of starving people.
The women practice their own forms of borrowed warmth. They share knowledge, a remedy for a child's cough, a better way to mend a torn tunic. They share labor, perhaps gathering around a single hearth to spin wool together, the collective work making the tedious task more bearable. They share childcare, watching over a neighbor's child while the mother is occupied with a pressing chore. This system is not born of pure altruism. It is born of a deep, pragmatic understanding of the world. The cold teaches you to share, or it takes you both. A family that hoards its resources, that refuses to help its neighbors, becomes isolated. And, in winter, isolation is death. If your hut catches fire, no one will come to help you put it out. If you fall ill, no one will bring you water. Your selfishness will have sealed your fate. So you give. You give a little wood, a little food, a little time. You offer what you can, knowing that the warmth you give away will eventually return to you in one form or another. It is a fragile system, built on trust and mutual desperation. But it is what holds the village together. It is the invisible web of connection that allows your small human community to survive in the face of the vast, indifferent cold.
A song against the wind. There are nights when the cold is so profound,
and the darkness so complete that all the practical defenses feel inadequate. The fire is low, the belly is empty, and the wind is a relentless, screaming banshee at the walls. On these nights, when despair feels like a physical presence in the room, you turn to the last and most ancient of defenses, the human voice. You begin to sing. It is not a performance. There is no audience, no applause. It is an act of defiance, a refusal to be silenced by the oppressive quiet of the winter night. Your voice is not trained or beautiful. It is rough, untutored, and often off-key, but it is warm. It is a thread of sound, of life, woven into the vast cold emptiness. You sing the old songs, the ones your father sang to you, and his father sang to him. They are songs of heroes and battles, of dragons and brave knights. The words are familiar, a comforting rhythm that you know by heart. As you sing of epic struggles and great victories, you are for a moment transported out of your small, smoky hut. You are connecting to something larger than your own small life, to the long, unbroken chain of your ancestors who also sang these songs against the darkness.
And huddled in miserable silence, begin to listen. They know the choruses, and their small, reedy voices join the song. The hut, which a moment ago was filled with the sound of the howling wind, is now filled with music. It is not a grand sound, but it is a human sound. It is a sound of your own making, a small pocket of order and beauty carved out of the chaos of the night. When you are tired of the old songs, you sing the songs of the seasons and the work, songs about plowing the fields, about shearing the sheep, about the coming of spring. These songs are a form of prayer, an invocation of warmth and life. To sing of the sun in the dead of winter is an act of pure, defiant hope. It is a way of reminding yourselves that this season of darkness is not eternal, that the cycle will turn, and that the world will be green again.
Sometimes, when the mood is right, you even make up songs. A silly, nonsensical rhyme about the pig snoring too loudly, or a song that teases your son about his clumsiness. The children laugh, a rare and precious sound in the grimness of winter. For a few moments, the fear is forgotten. The laughter is a brighter, warmer flame than any fire. Singing is a way to fight back against the psychological toll of the winter. The constant cold, hunger, and darkness can breed a deep, gnawing despair, a feeling of helplessness. The act of singing is an assertion of agency. It is a declaration that even in the face of overwhelming forces, you are not passive victims. You can still create something. You can still fill the air with your own breath, your own voice. The wind continues to howl outside. The cold does not retreat, but for the duration of the song, it seems to lose some of its power. Its mindless, chaotic noise is countered by the structured, meaningful sound of your music. Your voice rises, and for a moment, the cold steps back. It is a small, temporary victory, but it is a victory nonetheless. In the long, dark war against the winter, you have won another battle, armed with nothing more than a song.
The cold that shaped you. Summer has come. The world is transformed, reborn in a riot of green and gold. The sun is a warm, welcome weight on your shoulders. The fields are alive. The air is thick with the buzz of insects and the scent of wildflowers. The misery of the winter feels like a half-forgotten nightmare, a bad dream from another lifetime. But it is not forgotten. Not really.
The cold has carved its name into your bones. And even in the midst of summer's bounty, you are still shaped by its memory. You feel it in your body. The joints in your hands, swollen by the chilblains of the winter, still ache on damp mornings. There is a permanent, deep-seated ache in your lower back from the long months spent huddled and shivering. You have a cough that has never quite gone away, a lingering remnant of the smoky air and the penetrating damp. Your body is an almanac of past winters, each one having left its own distinct, indelible mark. The memory of the cold shapes your actions. You cannot look at the sun without a feeling of profound, almost religious gratitude. You do not take its warmth for granted. You find yourself pausing in your work, simply to turn your face to it, to feel its heat soak into your skin, a sensation that feels like a miracle.
You have a deep, instinctual fear of waste. When you eat, you leave not a single crumb behind. You see the fallen apples in the orchard not as refuse, but as future food to be gathered and stored. You watch your children play, and a part of your mind is already calculating, planning, worrying about the winter to come. The shadow of the hungry gap is long, and it touches even the brightest summer day. Will this year's harvest be enough? Have you repaired the roof properly? Do you need to set aside more fodder for the animals? The anxiety is a permanent, low-level hum in the back of your mind. The cold has taught you to see the world differently. You have a heightened appreciation for the small, simple comforts: a dry pair of shoes, a bowl of fresh, sweet berries, the feeling of being truly, deeply warm without the aid of a fire. These are not small things to you. They are luxuries of unimaginable preciousness. It has also left you with a deep-seated fatalism. You have learned, in the most brutal way possible, that you are not the master of your own destiny. You are subject to the whims of the seasons, to the luck of the harvest, to the mercy of the weather. You have seen how quickly life can be extinguished by forces far beyond your control. This knowledge lends a certain gravity to your outlook. You do not expect life to be easy or fair. You expect it to be a struggle, and you are prepared for it.
You look at the forest at the edge of the fields. In summer, it is a place of dappled light and cool shade. But in your mind's eye, you can still see it as it was in winter. A dark, menacing wall of snow-laden branches, a place of wolves and freezing winds. The memory is so strong, it is almost a physical sensation. The winter has shaped your character. It has forged in you a resilience, a patience, and a grim determination that you would not otherwise possess. It has taught you the absolute, non-negotiable value of community, of family, of a single glowing coal. You do not think of yourself as strong or brave. You think of yourself as a survivor. The cold came, you endured it, and you are still here. That is the fundamental fact of your existence. Even in the glorious, life-affirming warmth of a summer day, you are a creature of winter. The cold is the artist that has sculpted your soul.
The year the snow never left. Every old person in the village has a story about it. It is not just a memory. It is a myth, a foundational text in the oral history of your people. It is the story of the long winter, the year the sun forgot to return, the year the snow never left. It may have happened in your grandfather's time, or his grandfather's before that. The details shift with each telling, but the core of the story remains the same, a terrifying monument in the landscape of your collective memory. The story begins with a summer that was not a summer, a season of endless gray rain and weak, watery sunlight. The crops in the fields grew stunted and pale. The harvest was a disaster, yielding less than half of what was needed. A deep sense of foreboding settled over the village as they gathered their meager stores. Then the snow came. It did not arrive in December, as is proper. It came in late October, a sudden, shocking blizzard that buried the world in a thick, white shroud before the last of the autumn preparations were complete. And it did not stop. Week after week, more snow fell. The drifts piled up against the walls of the huts, reaching the eaves of the roofs. The village was completely cut off, an isolated, snowbound prison.
The story tells of a cold that was deeper and more relentless than any had ever known. The wolves grew so bold from starvation that they would come right into the village, snatching dogs and even threatening children. The fuel ran out not in late winter, but by Christmas. Families were forced to burn their own furniture, the benches, the stools, even the precious loom, just to stay alive. The hunger was the heart of the story. The small stores of grain were gone by January. People were reduced to eating the leather from their shoes, boiled for hours to make a thin, foul-tasting broth. They ate the thatch from their own roofs. There were dark whispers, never spoken aloud but always understood, of families who did the unthinkable, who looked to the bodies of their own dead for sustenance. The sickness came next, a terrible, wasting plague that thrived in the weakened, starving bodies. The priest died. The village reeve died. Almost every family lost someone. The churchyard was a field of frozen, unmarked mounds, because there was no one with the strength left to dig proper graves.
The most terrifying part of the story is the false spring. In April, the snow began to melt, and a desperate, fragile hope flickered in the hearts of the survivors. They planted the last of their seed grain in the muddy, sodden fields. And then, in May, the snow returned, a final, cruel blow that buried the new green shoots and extinguished the last embers of hope. The story always ends in the same way. The survivors, a skeletal remnant of the once thriving village, are ready to simply lie down and die. And then, one morning, the sun rises. But it is a different sun. It is a warm sun, a strong sun. The snow begins to melt in earnest, and this time it does not return. A handful of traders from another village, who had also endured their own version of the long winter, finally make their way through, bringing with them a small supply of grain. Life, against all odds, goes on. You have heard this story by the fireside since you were a child. It is more than just a scary tale. It is a crucial lesson. It is a reminder that the normal rhythm of the seasons is not a guarantee. It is a gift. It is a reminder that things can always be worse. It is a testament to the absolute resilience of your ancestors. You are here listening to this story because they survived. Their blood flows in your veins. When you face your own winter with its own hardships, you think of the long winter. Your own struggles, as terrible as they feel, are placed in perspective. You have food, you have fuel, you have hope. The memory of the year the snow never left is a grim and powerful anchor. It is the ultimate story of survival, a story that reminds you that to endure is the greatest victory of all.
Kindling hope. To live through the winter is to become a master in the art of finding hope in the smallest, most insignificant of things. Hope is not a grand, abstract concept. It is not a belief in a distant, better future. It is a tangible, practical resource, something that must be sought out, cultivated, and carefully husbanded, just like your supply of firewood. It is the kindling for the soul. You find it in the light. In the depths of December, the days are brutally short, a few hours of gray, twilight-like gloom bookended by vast oceans of darkness. You mark the passing of the winter solstice not with a great feast, but with a quiet, internal acknowledgement. From this day forward, you know the light will begin to return. Each day, the sun will linger in the sky for a few moments longer. This change is imperceptible at first, but the knowledge of it is a powerful tonic against the despair of the darkness. You start to watch the way the light falls in your hut, noting how the patch of sunlight from the doorway creeps a little further across the floor each week. This slow, steady return of the light is the first promise of spring.
You find it in the smallest signs of life. On a milder day in February, you might see a bird, a small hardy finch, flitting between the bare branches of a tree. The sight of this tiny living creature, surviving just as you are, is a moment of profound connection. It is a reminder that you are not alone in your struggle. You might notice a single stubborn green shoot, a dandelion or a thistle, pushing its way up through a patch of melted snow near the wall of your hut. This small, defiant act of growth is a powerful symbol. It is a message from the earth itself that life is still there, dormant but not dead, waiting for its moment to return. You find it in your children. You watch them play, their capacity for joy a constant source of wonder. They can create a world of adventure out of a piece of wood and a bit of string. Their laughter, a rare and precious sound, is the most effective antidote to the gloom of winter. Their simple, unquestioning belief that spring will come is a powerful source of strength for you. To protect their hope is to protect your own.
You find it in the work of your hands. When you sit by the fire, mending a tool or weaving a basket, the simple, repetitive motion is a form of meditation. In a world of chaos and uncertainty, the ability to create something whole and useful with your own hands is a profound comfort. It is an act of order, a small victory against the entropy of the season. The finished object, the smooth handle of the axe, the sturdy weave of the basket, is a tangible piece of hope. It is a tool for a future that you believe will come. Hope is not a passive state. It is an active practice. It is the conscious decision to focus on the coal, not the ash. It is the choice to tell a story of summer, not of despair. It is the effort to notice the lengthening of the day, the budding of a tree, the laughter of a child. It is the faith required to plant a seed in the frozen ground. The winter teaches you that hope is not the absence of hardship, but the courage to endure it. It is not found in grand gestures, but in the small, daily acts of attention and care. You learn to kindle it from the most meager of materials, to nurture its fragile flame, and to use its quiet, steady light to guide you through the longest, darkest nights.
Lessons by firelight. There are no books in your hut. The written word is the domain of monks and clerks, a mysterious art that has no place in your world of soil and seasons. Your knowledge is not stored on parchment, it is stored in people. It is a living library of practical wisdom, passed down from one generation to the next, not in a classroom, but by the flickering light of the hearth. The winter evenings are your school. The day's hard labor is done. The meager meal has been eaten, and the family is gathered around the fire. This is when the teaching happens. It is not formal or structured. It is woven into the fabric of conversation, of storytelling, of the simple, repetitive tasks that are performed by the fireside. You sit with your son on a low stool, a broken axe handle in your hands. You do not give him a lecture on the properties of wood. You show him. You let him feel the grain of the ash. You explain why it is strong and flexible. You guide his small hands as he learns to use a knife to whittle a new handle, teaching him to follow the grain, to shave the wood in thin, careful layers. He learns patience. He learns respect for the tool and the material. He learns that a well-made handle will not break and endanger him in his work. This is a lesson worth more than any words in a book.
Your wife sits with your daughter, a spindle in her hand, transforming a clump of raw, greasy wool into a strong, even thread. She does not explain the physics of twisting fibers. She shows her the rhythm, the feel of it. She teaches her how to tease the wool, how to let the spindle drop and spin, how to join a new piece without creating a weak spot. Your daughter learns that the clothes that keep her warm do not appear by magic. They are the product of immense skill and countless hours of labor. She learns her own value, her own place in the economic life of the family. The lessons are not just practical. They are moral and historical. By the firelight, you tell the old stories. You tell the story of the great famine your grandfather survived, a lesson in the importance of foresight and saving. You tell the story of the dispute with the neighboring village over grazing rights, a lesson in the complexities of justice and community. You tell the stories from the Bible that the priest has told you, tales of good and evil, of sin and redemption, which provide a moral compass for their lives. They learn to listen. They learn to watch. They learn that knowledge is not an abstract thing, but something that is embodied in the skill of a hand, the memory of an old man, the words of a story. They learn that survival depends not on what you own, but on what you know how to do. The firelight is the perfect teacher. It softens the hard edges of the world. It creates a space of intimacy and focus. The flickering shadows make the stories seem more alive, more mysterious. The warmth makes the body relax and the mind more receptive. This is your legacy. You will not pass down land or wealth. You will pass down this knowledge. You will teach your son how to read the sky for weather, how to mend a fence, how to know when an animal is sick. You will teach your daughter how to preserve food, how to make a poultice for a wound, how to manage a household. You are passing down the unwritten encyclopedia of peasant survival. These lessons, taught by the quiet, intimate glow of the fire, are the most valuable inheritance you can give them. They are the tools they will need to face their own winters, to teach their own children, and to keep the fragile flame of your family's existence alive. The quiet strength of the poor. History is a story told by lords and kings, written by monks and scholars. It is a grand narrative of battles, of crowns, of castles and cathedrals. In this story, the peasant is a footnote, a faceless, voiceless mass, the backdrop against which the great deeds of the powerful are performed. They are often portrayed as weak, ignorant, and passive, their lives a mere brutish struggle for existence. This is the greatest lie that history tells. The peasant is not weak. To witness their life in winter is to witness a form of strength so profound and so enduring that it makes the armored bravado of a knight seem like a child's game. It is not the strength of aggression, but the strength of resilience. It is the strength to wake up in the freezing darkness, day after day, and face a world that is actively trying to kill you. It is the strength to carry on working when your body is racked with hunger and your hands are numb with cold. It is the strength to watch your child sicken and die and still find the will to get up the next morning and feed the animals. This is a quiet strength. It does not announce itself with trumpets or display itself in tournaments. It is found in the silent, methodical mending of a shoe. It is found in the patience of a woman spinning wool for hours on end. It is found in the grim determination of a man digging a grave in the frozen earth. It is a strength built not on muscle, but on an unbreakable will to endure. The peasant is not ignorant. They cannot read or write, but they are masters of a complex and vital body of knowledge. They can read the sky, the soil, the subtle signs of a changing season. They are botanists, able to distinguish between hundreds of plants, knowing which are edible, which are medicinal, and which are poisonous. They are veterinarians, tending to their livestock with a skill born of generations of experience. They are engineers, able to build a house, a fence, a tool from the materials that nature provides. Their knowledge is practical, essential, and encyclopedic. To call them ignorant is to fundamentally misunderstand the nature of intelligence.
The peasant is not passive. They are engaged in a constant, active struggle with their environment. They are innovators, constantly devising new ways to solve the old problems of hunger and cold. They are collaborators, building complex social networks of mutual support that allow the community to survive. They are rebels in their own small way, defying the despair that their circumstances should engender. Every song sung against the wind, every story told in the darkness is an act of active resistance against the crushing weight of their world. Their greatest strength is their sense of community. They understand, in a way that the powerful never can, that survival is a collective enterprise. They are bound together by shared hardship, by mutual obligation, by the certain knowledge that they must rely on each other because there is no one else to rely on. The quiet heroism of the peasant is not an individual affair. It is the heroism of the family, of the village. It is the heroism of shared warmth, of borrowed food, of collective endurance. So as you sit by the fire, a survivor of another winter, you are a testament to this quiet strength. You are the descendant of a long, unbroken line of people who have faced the cold, the hunger, and the silence, and have refused to be broken. You have no crown, no sword, no castle. Your only possessions are your skills, your family, and your unyielding will to live. And in the long, unwritten history of humanity, that is the only strength that truly matters.